Every time I start filming, my cat wants to jump in my lap and shake everything. My name is Taylor Rose, and welcome back to my channel where we talk about everything reading and writing. So today is another fresh off the press book community drama episode where we're going to talk about the BookTok Big 3 AI and what's going on with Boys of Tommen. As always, I'm responding to publicly available social media posts. These are just my opinions. You don't have to agree with me. That's fine. This video is going to be about kind of like a heavy topic. If you're not interested, I'm not offended. This was hard to film. I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable. So if you have been on BookTok recently, you have probably heard people talking about the BookTok Big 3. A lot of people are confused about this because a lot of people have not heard of these three creators, but some people have just given them this nickname recently. All three of them have had different controversies recently. Essentially, it's three content creator and book influencers who are friends. Two of them appear to be with the same agency, and they make content together, they talk about each other, they're friends. First, we have Yana Reads. So you see 600,000 followers. Every time I've heard her mentioned, people have mentioned her little tagline. If it's not smut, I probably won't read it. Which, you do you. That's fine. Her little controversy is that she did a review of 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, which is a duology. It's like a fantasy heist set of novels. I really liked them. I thought they were Leigh Bardugo's best books. So she did a review on 6 of Crows and literally said, this book has too many words. And a lot of people were up in arms about that because you're reading books. Usually good books have a lot of words to take you on the journey of the story and stuff. But again, you do you. The second member of the Big 3 is Larry. So her little tagline is a little more generic, right? Books, coffees, TV show, blogs, Taylor Swift. She does have the most followers out of all of them. Her controversy is that she posted a negative Rena Kent review, and Rena Kent stopped following her, which, yeah, of course she would. You know, like, reviews are for readers, and authors shouldn't get involved. I certainly wouldn't want to see a negative review for my book that is already published. So that was her little thing, and people were kind of, I guess, annoyed in general that like she called Rena Kent out for this. I thought the video was kind of funny. It's her laughing when they are friends and then her crying when it's following. Like, yeah, I would be sad if an author that I generally liked stopped following me. There are plenty of books and authors that I've read. Many of their books, loved them, and then read one that I thought was absolutely terrible, like I just mentioned with Leigh Bardugo. That brings us to the third member of the BookTok Big 3, and that is Mariana Reads, screaming about words on paper. Before this controversy, I actually had not seen any content with any of them. A lot of people aren't familiar with them. They aren't actually like the BookTok Big 3. It's just a funny nickname some people have given them. So you can see here that she has 546,000 followers currently, as of the day I'm filming this, the last day of June. So people were upset with Mariana because of a comment she made on an AI generated video. I'm going to show you this TikTok by Dark Whimsy Rose about what the issue was.
If you're defending the BookTok Big 3 and you don't understand why people are upset with them about these AI edits and the comments they made and reposting them, I'm going to show you a screenshot of why people are upset. For context, this is about a 17-year-old child that is a book character. And Mariana commented and said, give me a hair tie in 2 minutes. He's in his school uniform. I'm sorry, like, it's not okay. People criticize other BookTok creators for much less.
The other two were defending her in comments across everything, and a bunch of people were saying, wow, that's gross. Because, yeah, it's gross. She did go on and post another video basically making like, she's like licking her lips basically in this video, and it's about another AI video about a different character. That first one I think is Johnny Kavanaugh, and then this one's Joey Lynch. whatever. So many people in the comments of the video that's gone now were just like excusing it because, well, this book series is set in the late 90s and early 2000s, so those characters would be in their late 30s now. That's not an excuse. I guess if you weren't like a conscious human in the late 90s, early 2000s, there were so many creepy old men making comments about like Britney Spears and her little Catholic schoolgirl uniform, Hayden Panettiere's character in Heroes, who was the cheerleader, you know, creepy guys on Facebook posting pictures talking about like, how hot she is. And it's like, she's a child. She's a minor. How is that acceptable? Even more recently, Billie Eilish has been interviewed multiple times talking about how when she was underage, she specifically wore very baggy clothing to hide her figure because she didn't want creepy adult men talking about her on the internet like she is some sort of toy for them. Which, yeah, I totally agree. It is really gross when people do that. Even adult celebrities aren't saved from this. Constantly, you'll see there's a celebrity now who's middle-aged. As happens, we all just keep getting older. But they'll post photos of them when they were teenagers in movies they probably shouldn't have been in. That one, I always forget her name, but there was that one actress, she was in a movie really young. She was like 12 or 13, and they had her basically naked. I can't remember off the top of my head, but you probably know what I'm talking about. Another actress like filed a lawsuit basically being like, yo, extorted me. Like, anyways. So it's like they still have to live with people being creepy about like, oh man, you were so hot when you were a child. And to have all these women on the internet excusing it because it's the genders are flipped? No. I find it really creepy. So a lot of people on threads are rightfully upset that this is going on. I still can't believe that there are grown adults sharing thirst trap AI edits of Boys of Tommen characters that are under the age of 18. Firstly, these edits are AI. Why are people still continuing to share AI? Second of all, these characters are minors and there are adults sexualizing that. It's fine sitting there thinking he's really sweet, etc., but sexualizing these young characters as an adult is wrong on so many levels, especially when this is a series that speaks about topics like this. This really icked me out when I saw it. I love the characters, but no way would I be reposting something like that. Yeah, I totally agree. Especially because AI is using actual photos of children. Parents are now being discouraged from sharing photos of their children online because they're being used for nefarious purposes with AI. I just think it's shocking that a lot of people don't think about this. I thought this comment summed it up pretty well. I love the characters, but they're like my little brothers I want to protect. They're sweet and romantic, obviously, like it's a love story, but they're still minors. I don't care if it's fictional, and the argument that they would be in their late 30s now is crazy. So a lot of those comments talking about like, they're in their 30s now, were on the TikTok side. And I feel like my husband laughed when I was talking to him about this because I feel like it's like celebrities. You know, for the vast majority of people, you are never going to meet a celebrity. Sorry. The only celebrity I've met was Hillary Clinton. My friend made me go to a book signing with her because you could only get one book signed per person, and her mom wasn't able to go. So I held her mom's book and got her mom's book signed. Of course, you know, my friend had this little speech prepared, and I panicked. I just laughed. And she gave me the weirdest look. She was like, handed me back the book, and then I left. But it was like I was just so stunned because I've never met a celebrity before, A. And B, it's like I see this person on television. They weren't a real person, really, to me. And then there she is, right in front of me. Our hands could have touched. But before that, she was fake. She was a fictionalized person in my head. In middle school, I was obsessed with Twilight. I was Team Edward all the way. Edward Cullen filled the same part of my brain later. I was really obsessed with My Chemical Romance and Gerard Way. It's like they are both characters in my head. They aren't real to me. A, because Edward's in a book. You can never touch him. I guess you could meet Robert Pattinson, but that's A, not the same because he's not actually Edward. B, like I was never going to meet Gerard Way either. So I do think it's kind of silly when people are like, but they're fake. And it's like, yeah, so is that teenage boy's celebrity to you. The person he is on screen isn't real. People are so shocked all the time. Oh my God, I can't believe this celebrity did XYZ. And it's like, well, yeah, they're playing for you on screen. And that's not a real person. That is a fake person that they're using to advertise themselves. But anyways, for me, they're just fictional false flat. This was going down when Mariana followed up with step 2 of the controversy. You can see this second video in the middle where she's holding up the laptop. She has since deleted it. It's not on her profile anymore, but she is advertising character AI. And you can see here, she had almost 560,000 followers. So she's lost over 10,000 followers from this. Advertising for character AI, which is a program that is taking IP. It's like taking actual book characters and letting AI generate conversations between you and them. You can like steer the story however you want. You're telling the AI, I want Edward Cullen to run away with me to Hawaii, or whatever character you want. So she was like, you can have your conversation with your dark romance baddie. And it was like, oh, okay. So a lot of authors are up in arms about this because their material is being stolen for people to pay to have fake conversations with them. And so it's like, A, you're stealing my IP. B, you're falsifying who that character is for money. Like, people started tearing her apart in the comments, basically. Funnily enough, Rachel Gillig, who is an amazing writer, she says, reminder that if you see BookTokers promoting character AI enemies to lovers arc between you and your dream boyfriend, they're actively promoting theft from the very books they claim to support. Don't engage. Starve the parasite. Humans make art. And everyone was cracking up like, oh my god, you got called out by Rachel Gillig? Yeah. Pretty embarrassing. So people were kind of ripping into her in the comments. Oh, well, you were my favorite book talker. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm working so hard to find a way to be able to address this because so much is out of my control brand-wise, but I promise I have immediately heard all of you, and I know this is wrong. I'm trying my best to approach this with care. I made a mistake and have had so many kind people reach out to help educate me on the situation, and I don't want people to think I'm sitting around doing nothing. And that excuse fell flat for a lot of people. And you can see this response here. I say this with so much respect because I know a lot of people are attacking you and I don't want to, but a bag is never worth your morals. A paycheck isn't worth the backlash. A brand deal is never more important than your community. Sincerely, a fellow content creator. She's like, I completely agree wholeheartedly. And it's like, no, you don't, girl. No, you don't. This was at least a week after she made that disgusting comment on a picture of a teenage boy. And people were messaging her. People were commenting on her stuff like, hey, that is, no, ma'am. Like, that's not cool. And then she's stumbling over here. I had no idea people would react so badly to AI. Be for real. I don't believe it. So author Cat King on Threads was saying, I'm just waiting for either her minions to attack me or for her to block me. Because she commented on that video, you were lusting after a minor AI drawn character literally not too long ago. You were pointed out to about the harmful side of AI and you chose to ignore that. You willingly signed the contract to do the ad. It wasn't out of your control. You just didn't expect such a severe backlash. I can't even find your comment, which I find TikTok hard to navigate, finding comments and stuff, because they're like shifting around. But if she understands it was wrong, why does she take money for it in the first place? How many times do people have to scream AI is bad? Yeah, I know. And so I saw this video by Priyanka basically saying, clearly these people don't even do research into what they're promoting, because last year, Character AI was in a lawsuit because a teenager was using their program to talk to Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones, and she told them to themselves. And they did. There is a dead child now because of this extremely unethical program. And absolutely wild. I'll never get a sponsorship for anything, but if I did, I would be Googling controversy. Give me the deets. I would never want to promote something that is actively harmful. Everyone wishes they had more money, but is it worth it to promote something so damaging? I say no, but do you, I guess. So when the whole like AI thing, like her responding to that AI image started, I was kind of like, I've never heard of Boys of Tommen, and I quickly realized it's a contemporary romance. That's why. I'm not really into contemporary fiction. I'm just a lot more forgiving to fantasy for a lot of things, like bad people, bad things happening, because it's not real, and I'm like to compartmentalize it in my head and not feel so stressed out. Because it's like if I see something about animal abuse in real life, it's really upsetting to me. But if I'm reading a fantasy novel and they're like hunting or something, it's easy for me to be like, well, yeah, rationally, they're in a society where that is necessary. Like, I'm willing to forgive it because in that context, it is a necessary thing for survival. Or if it's mean people, it's like, yeah, they live in a really cutthroat world. In real life, I don't want to have to think about that because it's really awful that we still deal with terrible things, but besides the point. I started Googling about the Boys of Tommen, and I found a lot of interesting conversations on threads. The Boys of Tommen series is not YA, so seeing it marketed as such is actually scary. Big difference between the age of the characters and the maturity of the book. And then the first response, so weird that the first ones were republished under Bloom YA, and now when you check their website, they have Guild under Bloom YA, which is definitely an adult series. And this person's like, oh, the series that starts with a massive group activity? I did go on Bloom's website, and they have moved Boys of Tommen at least to the sports romance section, which nowhere, anywhere. Well, I've read the summary of 2 of the books on like a fan wiki. I've never seen any comments anywhere talking about the sports side of the book. So I just wonder how much sports are really in there. I was under the impression that sports romance was like sport heavy. One of the characters is actively participating. Their character arc is going to involve the sport. Like, it's a major part of the plot alongside the love story between the sports guy and the sports girl. I could be wrong, but that was what I was under the impression sports romance is. In my experience, it's been sporty. So a lot of people were doubting whether or not these were actually advertised as YA, because so many people are like, clearly this book's for adults. It would never be YA. Cardi Kukolti said on Threads, I just received my Boys of Tommen Bloom editions, and why is it young adult when releasing 10 is about Liz being graped almost every few chapters with very detailed grape scenes? Like, WTF? You should be ashamed for this, marketing these books for young children. So a lot of people didn't believe her, so she posted this video showing the spine of the book, and it literally says young adult. Like, that's their little genre imprint right there. They obviously have since moved it because of the intense backlash. Again, I read the synopsis of this book, and it is pretty egregious. Obviously, I don't want to pay money for anything going on here, so I cannot personally attest to how graphic it is, but given the number of comments saying how graphic it is, I am inclined to believe them. If you're willing to pay money for this, I guess feel free to enlighten me. I'm just kind of shocked that like a sports romance is talking about these things. I don't know. And so I even went on Reddit to try and find how bad is it? How graphic is it? And almost every thread I came across, the moderators were having to delete comments, right? Rule, no sexual content involving minors. Comment after comment deleted on these Reddit threads. There's one, right? There was another thread. I'm just like, okay. On Threads, there seems to be like a really big misconception about what YA is, right? Because YA is the age of the characters, not the content. False. YA is the age of the intended audience, 12 to 18-year-old readers. That can be a range of character ages and themes. And then this person's like, I thought the YA genre couldn't contain a lot of the content that Boys of Tommen has and still be considered YA. Are you able to prove any more insight on this as an author? And she's saying it's a bit of a mix between publishers being irresponsible, very in this case, and people having different opinions on what is appropriate for teen readers. So I'm not saying that teenagers shouldn't be exposed to sensitive topics, but they should be in an age-appropriate way that is educational and not just like trauma porn, essentially. I don't know. I definitely don't think that these books are YA. And I have to feel like the people who think this about YA haven't ever been in a library. Like, I distinctly remember being in late elementary school and I was obsessed with Redwall. So my mom took me to the public library and to get a Redwall book. She took me to the YA section and I remember being so scandalized. I was like, excuse you, young adult? Like, because I had been looking in the kids section, like, and it's not over there. So I was like super scandalized. And she was an elementary school teacher, so it's not like she was like unaware of anything. But she was like, no, like, it's okay. It says young adult, but it's actually for, teenagers. Like, it's fine. Redwall's fine for you to read. And I was like, oh, okay, if you say so. But I'm just like, have you ever been to a library? According to Wikipedia, the earliest known term of young adult occurred in 1942. 1942. So what, 80 years ago? Prior to the 1930s, teenagers, adolescents, and young adults were still considered children in society. Following the recognition of teenagers as a distinct group of people, the designation of young adult literature was developed by librarians to help teenagers make the transition between children's literature and adult literature. According to a study conducted in 2023, 55% of young adult literature readers were over 18. Author and academic Michael Cart states that the term young adult literature first found common usage in the late 1960s in reference to realistic fiction that was set in the real, as opposed to imagined, contemporary world and addressed problems, issues, and life circumstances of interest to young readers aged approximately 12 to 18. And so, in general, obviously the definition is a little amorphous, but generally speaking, the criteria for young adult: books that readers aged 12 to 20 choose independently, literature written for young people aged 11 to 18, and books marked as young adult by a publisher, literature including a teenager who is the main character and, as the center of the plot, engages in problems related to and relatable to the lives of teenagers. Novels told by a teen protagonist speaking from an adolescent point of view with all the limitations of understanding that implies. The first published category of young adult books was published in 1944 by the New York Public Library. So the point being, YA has been around for a really long time. It has always held roughly the same definition: teenagers, middle school, high school, right? So Beauty in the Library says, hi, I'm a Canadian bookseller, and Bloom actually now has us shelving these in the romance section and not YA anymore. Which, she has stated this on the day that supposedly Releasing 10 was published, but obviously we saw from that post earlier, the spine of Releasing 10 initially did say young adult. Interesting, right? And again, another person very wrong on the internet. I don't disagree that these shouldn't be YA, but I think there's a huge misconception that YA equals children books. It's called young adult, as in 18 to 30. Who, except for this person, has ever thought YA included 30-year-olds? Nobody. Again, CSA isn't something that should be marketed as YA because it's very known that teenagers start venturing in YA, but young adult doesn't equal young child. And it's like, no, I think the issue is that YA has become the term used to describe what used to be teen fiction, aka 12 to 18. YA has referred to that for 80 years. 80 years, almost a century. It's kind of hard for you to read, but you can see here, this little section is the current warning on Releasing 10, which is the latest book in the Boys of Tommen series by Chloe Walsh. And it says, Releasing 10 is the 6th installment in the Boys of Tommen series. Some scenes in this book may be extremely upsetting, therefore reader discretion is advised. Please be aware this story tackles incredibly harrowing topics revolving around childhood abuse, sexual trauma, and suicide that, while extremely important to speak about, may not be suitable for younger readers. Please be mindful of emotional triggers and proceed with caution. Because of its explicit content, graphic violence, mature themes, triggers, and bad language, it is suitable for mature audiences. And a lot of people feel like that trigger warning is lacking, and I'm inclined to agree with them. Extremely upsetting. That can mean a lot of things. Childhood abuse. So a lot of her books deal with abusive parents, abusing children, beating them, etc. So if you've been reading this series, I think you would be inclined to think, oh, she's referring to this physical violence that she has talked about previously. Sexual trauma. Obviously, there's been, again, reading through the little synopses of her other books, it seems like a common theme that, like, children are forcing other children to do things or bullying them for not doing things, that sort of thing, which, falls under that for me. And suicide, that's straightforward. Might not be suitable for younger audiences, may not be suitable. Girl. And I'll get into why this upsets me in a minute. Graphic violence, yeah, okay, again, people beating each other, maybe a stabbing, I don't know, murder. That's what that warning makes me think of. This is rated R. Following this, I have a screenshot of her website. Since its original release in July 2018, The Boys of Tommen has taken the world by storm, with Walsh keeping an ironclad fist around the hearts of readers in every corner of the globe. Please note that all of Chloe's books are intended for mature readers of 18 years and above. This is false, but we'll get into that. Chloe's self-published work has always been categorized as new adult and contemporary. The topics of conversation in these stories are not suitable for younger audiences. Then why does her warning say may not? The first 4 books in the Boys of Tommen series were self-published and marketed for adult readership only. Chloe has always strongly emphasized that the content in the Boys of Tommen series is not for a younger readership. This was never the author's intention. Chloe marketed these books for an adult audience with a strong emphasis on the readers being over the age of 18 and stands by this belief. She is beyond frustrated by the change in genre and will be seeking immediate rectification on the matter. Please take note of the author's warning and her intention to reach perturbed audiences only. Okay, but these books have been out traditionally published since 2023. It's been 2 years since they were published by Bloom as YA. And she hasn't noticed? I don't know. Like, I understand an author doesn't really have that much control over what the publisher is choosing to do, but you would think if she feels so strongly that this is for an 18-year-old audience up only, she would have said something. She's never seen a physical copy of her book with YA printed on the spine? Come on. All right, and so someone's talking about that explicit content warning, saying, I hope this was a joke because the trigger warnings weren't specific enough. They left a lot of things out. The marketing content wasn't honest because you can go on the publisher's social media or the author's social media and you could believe you're about to read a sports YA romance. The marketing of this series does a disservice of it. The publisher is mostly responsible of all the backlash, which, you know, I agree. It makes me wonder if they even read the book. And then this response is basically saying, actually, the trigger warnings are available both in the front of the books and on Chloe's website. Again, people don't go to websites. I don't know how to tell you that. If you're in a bookstore and you see this book on a YA shelf and you just pick it up because you're like, oh, that's a cute cover. Are you, oh, let me Google the author? No, that is not enough. It's not her job to spoon feed people who don't do a 10-second Google search. Whatever. And let's be honest, if you thought this was just a fluffy sports YA romance, that's on you, not the publisher. Girl, they literally put YA on the spine. They put young adult on the book. They put it on the book. Even the most recent one. Like, you can't tell me it's not their fault. They were being extremely irresponsible. Chloe's been writing gritty, traumatic adult stories from day one. Don't confuse your lack of research with deception. They misled you. They misled readers. I think it's really straightforward. But okay, clearly it's everyone's fault for being misled by marketing. And it seems like a lot of books are doing this recently. So if you do go to Chloe's website now, you can see, please note the triggering content warnings below. And she does mention a lot of things: mental illness, bipolar, CSA, childhood abuse. Again, see, she has separated those. CSA, childhood abuse. Childhood abuse, again, in her explicit content warning, that is like parents hurting children, not CSA. She herself, the author, has differentiated those two as being separate topics. Rape, self-harm, grooming, emotional neglect, sexual assault, psychiatric hospitalization, forced birth control, forced miscarriage, abortion, bipolar-induced hypersexuality, sexual content, psychosis, explicit language. Like, this is what should have been in the book. No, it would be like going to a rated R film and then you get there and you find out it's like snuff. This person is like responding back, you weren't listening, just taking the parts that interest you. I didn't say there weren't any trigger warnings. I said that those available weren't detailed enough with the amount of heaviness of the topics and how explicit this book was. Also, there were some trigger warnings left out that should have been in the list. By the way, I asked Chloe Walsh on her post if the SA was graphic, and the PA, so like the publicity assistant, I think, DM'd me and told me she didn't know. Clearly, she didn't want to reveal the truth. Yep. And this person says, yes, reviews help fill the gaps, but that's why both the author warnings and community discussions exist. It's a shared responsibility. Holding a publisher accountable is fair. Attacking an author who did make an effort, maybe just not to your standard, isn't. Let's hold the right people accountable and push for clear industry guidelines together. Okay, well, this comment is just completely backtracking what you said in the last one. I don't know. So, like, basically this comment is the opposite of what they said previously. It's not the publisher or the author's fault you can't Google. And now they're like, you should hold the publisher accountable, not the author. She let her books be advertised for 2 years as YA. I don't know. Okay. So also on her website, Chloe did post an apology It was really long, and I don't know, I'm not going to read all of it, but the ending. Additionally, I would like to deeply apologize to readers who were rightfully distressed with the lack of content warning in releasing 10. Having reflected on the matter, I realized that what I should have had more descriptive trigger warnings at the front of the book. I'm working hard on rectifying this with my publishers and can assure you I will never make this mistake again. Good. And what gets me is in all of her statements, she keeps saying, my books are for adults, but when you go on Amazon, her first book says for 16 and older, 10th graders. Like, okay. And to be fair, looking at content warnings online, this is the only book that does not have on screen, on page, intimate contact. But it is misleading when you keep saying, my books are for adults only, when clearly they aren't and you haven't done anything. So, part of the controversy surrounding this author is, right? So right after, like literally 4 days after the book was published, people were in an uproar about the content. I think for viable reasons. And so she posted this explanation / apology video. And I'm not going to post it here because she was clearly very upset. And what she's been through is really horrible. But a lot of it fell short for me. And I'm not even I'm not even really a damaged party in this. So essentially, in her apology video statement, she discusses kind of the history behind people's issues with her. Because a lot of people online are repeatedly arguing that she is pro-Israel doing the things that it does. And she explains in her video that during COVID, she had a twin pregnancy, but one of those babies was stillborn. So she only had one surviving child. And obviously, like, that is very traumatizing. To be clear, that's really horrible. So she, obviously she has her mental health struggles. She has said she is bipolar. She was going through it. About 2 years later, she has had a second pregnancy, resulting in a living child. So now she has 2 children, a toddler and a baby. And she says that she has 2 friends from Israel who have been very supportive and nice to her. And they asked her if she would come do a signing in Israel. And she agrees. And personally, I think if 2 people who were so nice and caring towards me asked me to fly internationally 8 weeks postpartum, presumably with my immune fragile infant, you're not supposed to be taking them out in public. Especially, we were still like on the tail end of COVID as well. I would not think that those people liked me. I would think they did not like me. I would think that they hated me if they asked me to fly internationally with maybe just my baby, maybe my baby and my toddler. I wouldn't do it. I would say no. But obviously, she's free to feel whatever she wants to feel about these people, and that's just my opinion. So she goes, she does this book signing, she posts about it, but she mentions that the book signing's full of teenagers. So the first 4 books were self-published before 2023, when they were traditionally published by Bloom. So that means they read up to 4 books that you repeatedly say are for adults. Interesting. I know if I was writing an adult series of books, I get asked to fly internationally 8 weeks postpartum, and I show up to a book signing full of underage girls, I would be doubly upset now. So she posts on Facebook about this book signing, and of course, people in her little fan group are like, hey, do you know what's going on right now? Like, what's been going on? Like, personally, I've heard about this for the last 13 years. Like, the first time I heard about it was in college in like 2012. Was I very well informed? No. And multiple people on Threads have been saying she started kicking out those people who were pointing out, like, oh, like, do you know about Palestine? And she was kicking out of the group. Whether or not this happened is up for debate. All I've seen are thread comments. Clearly, I wasn't in her Facebook group. I don't even have Facebook anymore. There's not really even a way that you would be able to tell. So that was fall 2022. Flash forward a year. Yeah, fall 2023. So she's posted again in 2023, 12 months after people first warned her about this. And then people start telling her again, like, hey, like, do you know the background behind this? And she just drops off the internet. So now she's back. It's 2025, so 2 years later. And in her apology video, she just keeps going on and on and on about how I wanted to let children going through this know it gets better. you said these were adult books though. All these teenagers at my book signing. But you said these were adult books though. And then, but they're my friends. They were nice to me. I don't fault that. There are plenty of nice people from bad places. You know? Like most of the world doesn't like America. Does that mean all Americans are horrible? No. So just overall, she basically has just like avoided taking accountability for making like a statement on this. And I don't think that everyone is required to use their platform to make statements about things unprompted. But if you stumble upon a controversial topic and your response is just to block and delete people instead of owning it or apologizing, also don't be surprised that people are upset with you. I don't know. So a lot of people, when she released her statement, were like commenting their thoughts on threads. My thoughts watching the Chloe Walsh's video. Number one, people taunting her about her dead child are sick in the head, which I totally agree. The first time when she like posted the book signing, people had like found photos of her baby that passed. She had posted them to social media first, like they were sending her the photo being like, you deserved it. Like that's inexcusable, right? There's no reason, there's no excuse. You're cringe and gross and need to be locked away in a dark basement where you can think about your choices because WTF. Two, I appreciate her saying, I'm not a Zionist, and getting more context, re her initial conflict. The rest of the statement felt a little lukewarm, quote unquote, not knowing enough is not really a valid excuse anymore. Given the fact that it was pointed out to her 3 years ago, it says enough that she hasn't looked into it. And I understand. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I also have mental health troubles, anxiety, depression. It is hard for me to go on the internet and read things sometimes. So it's like, yeah, I do have to separate myself from the internet, especially given the state of things currently. But that doesn't mean I don't know in general, like what's happening. Her video just gave very like, I have zero idea about anything. They were nice to me, so that's what counts in my book. And some more comments people have made, right? This whole Chloe Walsh situation comes down to so many things, but once again, I'm going to place some of the blame with Blooms, the publisher. They're the ones that chose to market this series as YA. She even said in her video that these books are not meant to be read by younger readers, but Blooms is awful at marketing. They just see a book about teenagers and go, oh, the characters are young, put it in YA. I just think it's weird that like she never had the opportunity to make a comment about it being advertised as YA. Mari's Novel Adventures. Am I shocked that people writing hard for Chloe Walsh are the ones with the Neon stack in their shelves? No, I'm not. They're talking about Akatar. Art and Pia, putting aside how bonkers she is, her neutral stance on Palestine. Her Boys of Tommen book series is weird because why are you a grown woman writing explicit scenes between teenagers? It's weird, especially if your books are supposed to be YA. Basically, here are more comments about people questioning her statement and why she's even writing these books. I don't know. Like, I'm not one to, like, shy away from controversial topics. I own Lolita, but Lolita is also not advertised as a contemporary romance novel, and it was never in the YA section. I think, like, this whole thing is so weird. Like, why does it have to be a sports romance series that you use to write graphic CSA? Why does it even need to be, like, and I understand, like, romance is allowed to talk about difficult topics. People aren't perfect. Romance isn't about perfect people. Clearly, otherwise dark romance wouldn't be a thing. You could fade to black. She could be having recollections of things. You don't need to do time travel to like blow by blow cover exactly what happened. Like I remember when The Lovely Bones came out, I was in middle school and my mom took it away from me. She wouldn't let me read it. And I read it later, and it's like, oh, yeah, what it's talking about is horrible, but it's not graphic by any means. It wasn't actually, like, explicit. Didn't manage to still talk about a really troubling topic meaningfully. Yes, a lot of books manage to do that without having this sort of marketing issue. You know, and I see this in a lot. Maybe you also watch Read, Rant, Review. I love her videos. But she brings it up constantly in her videos. It's like, why are these books about teenagers when being freshmen in college would not actually change much? Like, and I get that maybe you want to be writing this from like an immediate, it's happening now, urgency to it. But I just think it's an interesting choice, especially when you like look at it in the context of like Mariana's comment and all these people thirsting over these teenage boys. I think it just says a lot. And I guess there is like that controversy with Lolita, like the movies really misconstrued the whole message. I guess just in summary, looking at all the controversy about the advertising and the genre itself in juxtaposition to how people are treating the series on social media, I don't think that people are actually taking the content as seriously as maybe Chloe wanted people to. I mean, she seems pretty genuine in her messaging that, like, I went through some tough stuff as a kid and I want to explore that in the context of it gets better, but I just think it's an interesting choice to do that in a romance novel when, like, what's the message? It's better when you find love. Again, I haven't read these and I don't intend to. Reading the synopses was really enough for me. Maybe I'm just completely misconstruing like what the books are actually going on about, but I read 30 pages and was like, nah, that's enough for me. That's all for now. I will see you next time, hopefully with a more fun topic.